What's up guys, Kevin here. So it's Wednesday and today is Scoop and Ladle Day. This is my least favorite day of the week because the ladles and the scoops that I make are the most difficult and time-consuming thing that I make in the spoon category. But I continue to make them because they're a guaranteed seller. I've made maybe 16 of these in the last couple of months and they've all sold almost right away at my Saturday market. The wood that I use comes from logs and they were basically free, so there's really no cost in the materials. It's just my time and the tools that I use. But I'm going to continue to make them because I'm hoping that I'll streamline my methods a little bit and I'll get quicker and the finished product will look even better, and maybe I'll even be able to raise the price and get a few dollars more for them. I'm not going to go through all the details of or a start to finish video of how I make these. Not today at least. I'll maybe do a video on that in the future. But what I wanted to do today was show you how I sharpen one of the hand tools that I use on virtually every spoon that I make, and that's the Gooseneck scraper. If you're not familiar with how a scraper works, it's basically just a flat piece of steel. Comes in various shapes. The most popular is probably just the regular flat card scraper. It's just rectangular. It's great for flattening, flat pieces of wood. This Gooseneck scraper is great for cleaning up the inside bowl of spoons, and especially these deep ladles and scoops that I make, because it's got a nice symmetrical curve to it that widens as you go towards the back, so you can use it on a lot of different sized spoons with different slopes. It's pretty flexible in the way that you can use it. And the way it works, you just kind of bend over or crush the corner of the edge of this piece of steel using a burnishing tool. This burnisher is just a perfectly round or cylindrical piece of steel, which is made from a harder steel than the scraper is made from. So once you put this in a vise and get it held, you just rub this. I'm going to show you how to do this in a minute, but I just kind of want to give you a brief overview. And you just rub this round tool over the corner of the edge, and it bends that over or crushes it and creates a burr. And that burr, although it doesn't feel sharp to the touch, I guess microscopically is really sharp, and a fresh new burr done correctly on these slices through wood like a knife, and it leaves just an absolutely perfectly clean finish, like a finish that's the equivalent of like 2,000 or 3,000 grit sandpaper. So they're a great tool to have, and if you're going to make any spoons, I would highly recommend getting at least one of these. I purchased 2 of these. They're 2 different brands. I didn't buy the 2 different brands for any particular reason. It just ended up that way. I think the Clifton brand that I have came with a set, and it came with the burnishing tool. And I got like a card scraper and another shaped scraper, but I really only use the Gooseneck. But the reason I have 2 is because when I'm scraping the inside of a spoon and I'm standing at the tip of the spoon and I'm going like this to my right, I want to have the burr on this side of the scraper. But then when I need to go to the left, do the left side of the spoon, the burr is on this side, and it's very awkward to go like this, and this fat part of the Gooseneck scraper ends up hitting on the top wall of the spoon, and it just doesn't do very well. So ideally then I would want to have the burr on the other side, but I'm not going to stop, flatten the burr on this side, and then put another burr on the other side. So I bought another scraper, and the burr is on the opposite side so that I can stand like this. And it's great. Same way when I'm standing on the handle side of the spoon, and go to my right with one, grab the other one and go to my left. And these are 2 different brands, they're exact same shape, but there's a difference in the steel. The Clifton brand the steel seems to be much harder and it's harder to put a new burr on it. You have to follow the steps that I'm going to show you in a minute to the T in order to get a nice clean burr that works well, and you need to press quite a bit harder with the burnishing tool to bend that edge over, whereas the crown seems to be much softer. You can kind of cheat a little bit on these steps, although I don't usually, and you don't have to press quite as hard with the burnishing tool, and when they're both, when the burr is put on both of them, they both cut the same, but the Crown brand the burr seems to wear down faster, whereas the Clifton will stay sharp longer. I don't know which one I like better, but I have them both, so I'm just going with what I have. So right now the burrs on both of these scrapers are pretty much worn down, and it's no longer slicing very well. So before I finish up this scoop here, I'm going to show you how I put a new burr on this gooseneck scraper. And the first thing you have to do is remove the old burr. You need to get both faces flat again and get a nice clean edge, with a nice angle, so that when you run this across that corner, you get a nice sharp corner to bend down and make a nice sharp burr. And the best way I found to remove the old burr is to use the same burnishing tool. And you just lay the scraper down on a flat surface. Take your burnishing tool and just roll that burr back into its original place. Roll it back out. Since this is a much harder steel, it just bends it right away. And you can feel with your hand, it's perfectly. I wouldn't say it's perfectly flat, but it's going to be here in a second with it when I show you my second step. I just lay that face down on a 600 grit piece of sandpaper. Rub it on there a little bit. And I can feel that burr is completely gone. So the next step that I do to remove the old burr and make sure that I've got a nice flat edge to start with, I don't do every single time, maybe every third time I put a new burr on. And especially if you ever notice that you start getting this edge rounded over, after maybe 3 or 4 times of putting new burrs on, I noticed one time that I just couldn't get a fresh new burr. No matter how hard I pressed down with that burnishing tool, I could not get a sharp edge. And I determined that I had rounded this over this way. And once that's round, you can never get a sharp burr. It's like trying to put an edge on a softball or something. So the best way that I found to get a nice flat edge is to use a flat board with a piece of 320 grit sandpaper adhered with some spray adhesive. And I'm going to show you how I use this. Alright, so all I do, I lay the scraper down on the flat workbench. I take this flat board and put it on the edge of my workbench. Rotate the scraper to the place where I want to start flattening. And then I just, little tiny, almost just like vibrating the piece of sandpaper, I rotate the scraper, trying to keep it at a consistent pace because I don't want to develop any flat spots. I want to keep that nice symmetrical curve. And the edge of the workbench helps me keep the sandpaper board vertical, perpendicular to the scraper. And I usually just rotate it that way once, and then I just rotate it back the other way. And I'm putting a nice flat edge on there. See, so the flatter that is, the easier it is going to be to crush over that corner and make a nice sharp burr. Alright, so the next thing I do is come over to where I have a little drill press vise mounted to the edge of my workbench. I've got 2 pieces of cedar that fit inside the vise, and those hold my scraper and protect it from getting marred by the vise. And I'm just going to mount this scraper in there, and that's going to hold it in place while I use the burnishing tool to bend over this edge. So what you're going to want to do is find the corner of that edge and try to balance the burnishing tool right on that corner. You'll feel it. It'll be, you'll feel the sharp edge. It'll feel a little rough, and you want to pull down and towards that corner. And I usually turn off all, music or anything so that I can hear it. And you'll hear it crush when you know you've got that corner. It'll kind of grind. This is more difficult than putting a burr on just a regular rectangular scraper, because you've got to remember to keep, as you go around the curve, you got to remember to keep, your pressure changing as you go around that curve. So now, as I'm getting towards the back, now I'm pushing forward instead of pulling. So you really got to kind of brace it with your thumbs or use whatever. Yeah, see, I can feel. And if you can feel a burr, it's there. You may not see it so much. But just remember to keep pressure, towards wherever you are on this curve. I'm sorry you really can't see the scraper cutting the wood. No matter where I positioned the camera, my hand was blocking the shot, and I really couldn't use the scraper properly, and still get a good shot of it. So you can see the shavings which are being created by the new burr on the scraper. Okay, well that's how I use and sharpen my gooseneck scrapers. I don't know if it's the best way to do it, and I'm sure it's not the only way to do it, but it works for me. So until I figure out a better way, that's how I'm going to do it. I've got a lot of work I still have to do today. Got to finish up these scoops, and I'm really going to make an effort to get the camera down here every week and shoot some footage and put a video out on YouTube every week. So if you found this video helpful and you want to see more, please subscribe. And thanks for watching.
Yeah. No, I don't like gooseberry. My dad did. There was people right behind mom and dad out in the alleyway. They had gooseberry plants growing. Dad used to go pick all the berries.